Class is in session, hitting the books, and it's another college football season preview edition of the Hitting the Books show. And in this show, we're talking Big 12, a conference that is as wide open as it gets. So it'll be a lot of fun talking Big 12 here on this edition of the College Football Hitting the Books show. Ian Cameron, Connor Mack with you as always. We're going to jump right in because this is a lot. There's a lot of teams. We're going to talk about individual teams, a few more than we normally have with the other previews, just because there's a lot of teams that are worthy of getting their own segment, I guess you could say, to talk about them. And we will begin, as we always do with these previews, we like to begin with the reigning defending conference champion from the year before. And, of course, that is the Arizona State Sun Devils. And who could have ever imagined at this time last year that the Arizona State Sun Devils were going to be Big 12 champions and in the college football playoff? What a renaissance turnaround season for the program, engineered by Kenny Dillingham, who I think has already proven his worth as one hell of a head coach here. Now, there's a lot of sentiment out there in the people that I've talked to and in the betting markets that this is a team that's going to fall back this year on the decline after the outstanding season, that maybe they're a one-hit wonder, one and done. I ain't buying it. I ain't buying it with Arizona State. I think Dillingham's proven just how good he is as a head coach. I know they lose Cam Scadaboo, who was, let's be honest, he was the MVP of that offense last year. No question about it. We know how dynamic a running back he was. No, absolutely will miss him. But it's not like the team doesn't have a lot of pieces still. They bring back Sam Leavitt, who I expect to be one of the best quarterbacks in college football this year. I really think the ceiling is that high. He's got an NFL caliber arm. He's got the mobility element to his game, Sam Leavitt. I thought he played outstanding last year at the quarterback spot. And I thought there were times later in the year where teams were keying on Scadaboo, and Sam Leavitt was beating them with his mobility, extending plays, with his arm, and the accuracy, and the decision-making. And now he's going to have a full year of really good play under his belt. I think he'll play well here this year. So, yes, it's going to be running back by committee, it looks like, this year. They brought in Army transfer, Kanye Udo. This is a guy that was one hell of a running back for the Black Knights last year. Remember how that Army offense was just a force last year with Bryson Daly, and one of the key components was Kanye Udo. Well, now he's going to form a tandem with Kyson Brown here at running back, and yeah, you're going to miss Scadaboo, but I think there's still some talent in that running back spot, backfield. Here for the Arizona State Sun Devils. So I still think they're going to be able to move the football well, especially with 4 of their 5 starters back on the offensive line this year. I think they're going to be one of the better offensive lines in the Big 12, if not the country, Arizona State. They were very good last year, very experienced, bring back most of their guys from last season. That's big. No question about that. How about the turnaround in the defense last year as well? They played well, holding teams just above 22 points per game. They have 9 starters back on that defensive side of the football. I get it. You know, they just played so well. There's probably a small little element of overachieving last year based on the expectations, which were not very high. But there's people projecting Arizona State to be a 500 team this year and not even in the mix, or at least be weight down a little bit and maybe be an afterthought here in the Big 12 race. I'm not buying it. I think this coach is for real. He knows what he's doing. He's a motivator, gets the most out of his guys. And I think Arizona State is as live as anybody to win the Big 12. And I think the betting markets going into this season, CMAC, they've downgraded Arizona State too much, in my opinion. So I still like them at 6-1 to win the conference. I still think they're very live from that standpoint. The win total for Arizona State, I like it. Still, I mean, because again, this is an adjustment and assuming a downgrade, assuming a decline. So to be able to get an 8.5 with the win total for Arizona State at plus money to the over, it's plus 102 for over 8.5. I like it. I think they're 9-3. We'll see about 10-2 and 11-1 because it's a tough conference. It's a competitive conference. But my gosh, I mean, to think that this team is just going to fall off and be 8-4 or worse this season after the great year they had last year, I'm just not buying that. I think they're a program that's ready to show it's not a one-hit wonder after going 11-3. Remember, this was an 11-win football team last year, 10 wins in the regular season. They expect them to drop, 2 full wins here. I'm not totally buying that. CMAC, what do you think here for the defending Big 12 champs, Arizona State?
Yeah, I think they can win 9 games too. Like, it's just they have some tough road games. Like the biggest, like the Mississippi State is the must win there. Kind of right out of the gate, and then they're at Baylor's going to be a little bit better. We're going to hit all these teams. They have a couple weeks for Utah, so they do have a couple weeks there. Their week off before their October 11th, and we'll see about Utah. We'll get into all these, but at Colorado late in the year, at Iowa State. I think they're right here. You know what the big thing is? The defense. Let's just start there. Everyone they brought back, like they still need some work on getting some pressure on the quarterback, and sacks. But I think this is one of the better secondaries that can work here, in the Big 12. You know what I mean? And it showed last year. Not all the time, but bringing all these guys back, I think it's going to be very, very good. And a few of those Robinson, some of those corners that are excellent. Scotto's tough, but I mean, what are you going to do? Tyson, the big receiver, comes back. They have a couple transfers to help out that they'll need for Levitt. I think the running backs, at least who they have in the combo there, will be fine. I think they're an 8 or 9 win team. I mean, who knows? Maybe more. It's just tough to go off how great they were last year. Scotto was just really, really good. But I like Levitt, how he kind of stepped up. You were mentioning a little bit better in big games, made big throws, even in tight games where they won kind of some of these tight games, even earlier in the year when you went back that, they played Texas State again. Just a few of those where he made enough plays and they got the job done. So can he do that again? I think he can. I think they're going to be, he's going to have a solid year, a quarterback in this conference at least. With the defenses.
And the way it goes back to the point where if they set this win total at 9.5, I ain't touching it.
Yeah,
But because I think that's, but they've dropped this team too much, in my opinion.
Well, there's some of these that are a little bit head shaky. We'll get to, like, I think Utah's a little, I don't know, maybe right at 7.5. I was high on Texas Tech. We're going to get to, but they're at 8.5, which I didn't love there. I mean, that was a go at 7.5. So, yeah, certain of these win totals lined up, you got to go through and kind of look at where you thought they'd be and where they're at and where the value is in these.
No question. ATS, that's another story because we know Arizona State against the spread last year. They were awesome, but that might be a little more difficult to make money ATS with Arizona State.
I was thinking there would be a fade. Well, I said spots where there'll be, so yeah. Don't get to that. Good thing you brought that up.
But I'm talking specifically with win totals and the futures market here.
Yeah, we're just.
And for me, they've downgraded Arizona State, in my opinion, a little bit too much. Because I think there's people out there that think it's 1 year they got lucky and now they're just going to be bad again. I don't buy it. It's just I'm buying into what Dillingham's selling. He's ready to build something long term. He's ready to turn Arizona State into one of the bigger teams.
That would be big.
Maybe put them on a national stage. Where they're every year they're churning out quality teams that are in the playoffs and longer shot national championship contender type teams. That's the visions he has here at Arizona State. So he's dreaming big. He's thinking big. And like I said, I think they're not going to fall off as much as some people think. All right, Kansas State next up here. We've got obviously Chris Kleiman and his Kansas State Wildcats. This is a very consistent program. They've won at least 8 games 4 straight years. So that's something worth noting. Of course, their win total this season, 8.5. So they got to win 9 if you're going to go over that win total for Kansas State this year. But when you look at it, it's a very experienced group. It's a team that last year had a solid year, even though they fell short of the Big 12 championship game. Avery Johnson returns at quarterback. With Avery Johnson, it's continuing to improve that down-to-down pocket passing. We know he's got some athleticism, some mobility. It's going to be about continuing to refine him as a passing quarterback. That's going to be, can Avery Johnson take that next step for Kansas State? Dylan Edwards, obviously is going to be leading them here in the running back spot. Joe Jackson as well. So they've got a nice little tandem there at running back for K-State. And with Kansas State, the run game will be a big component of the offense. They always want to be balanced here when it comes to the offense, run and pass. Jace Brown, their top receiver, returns. They do have some issues on the O-line in the fact that 3 new guys are coming in. So they have to replace 3 of their 5 starters on the offensive line, Kansas State, coming into the season. So how well will that transition unfold, and how quickly can they mold that offensive line with 3 new starters on it? The defense, when you look at it, was very solid last year. Yards per play, the numbers were pretty good. Defense was a solid group, no question about that. There is some turnover in the secondary, though. Lots of new faces. They had to plug they had to go to the portal to try to plug some of those holes for Kansas State in the secondary. So my thought here is actually the linebacking core and the D-line not too shabby. Secondary does have some questions. So if they go up against teams that can throw the football with good quarterback play on their schedule, I think Kansas State's going to be susceptible in some of those games. I'm not loving what I'm seeing out of that pass defense, at least on paper, for Kansas State coming into the season. I think that's what maybe could hold them back just a little bit, because in comparison to the team we just talked about here with Arizona State, their secondary is expected to be very good. So I think that's kind of where, they may be at a bit of a disadvantage, K-State, just compared to the team we talked about a moment ago. But Kansas State, to me, Avery Johnson's a player that had some really good games last year. We're going to have to see if he can become a little bit more consistent. The one thing I failed to mention when we talked Arizona State is there's not one game on their schedule that they can't win. Sure, there's going to be some games they could definitely lose, but there's no games on Arizona State's schedule that they can't win. When you look at Kansas State's schedule coming into this season, it's actually for them pretty solid, pretty favorable in a lot of aspects. That big game to start the year against Iowa State over in Ireland, week 0 is going to be a big one, no question. But obviously they're capable of winning it. You look at the road games at Oklahoma State, at Baylor, at Arizona. They are winnable, all 3 of those. At Utah will be difficult because we always know how tough it is to win at Utah against the Utes, and we both think the Utes are going to be better this year, so that'll be a tough one. So when you look at it, though, there's certainly TCU. I think we'll get to TCU and Baylor are on Kansas State's schedule. And I think both of those teams are going to be pretty solid. I think TCU is going to be better. I think Baylor is dangerous based on the way they finished the season last year. They played their best football. So those are not gimme games for Kansas State either. So I'm neutral on Kansas State when it's all said and done. In fact, if you forced me to choose, even with the schedule not being the worst in the world, I'd lean under. I got to see more from Avery Johnson. I'm worried in a conference this year, CMAC, with Sawyer Robertson and Baron Morton and Josh Hoover, that quarterback for TCU, and Levitt for Arizona. There's some good quarterbacks here, and I have real issues about that secondary of K-State coming into the year, and I think that could be a unit that maybe holds them back just a little bit. CMAC, what do you think here for Kansas State?
Yeah, the schedule, we'll see. I think it's kind of tough. Like, they miss Cincy and Houston. So maybe a couple. I mean, that's just how it's going to be here in the Big 12. But I think they could be good. They don't have a ton of road games, and they start out in Dublin. Let's get to that, against Iowa State, the first game of the year. Then they play North Dakota at home with Army, at Arizona, a game we'll see if they can get. But I think the rest are at home or UCF. Like, the struggles down the stretch here with these. They are on the road at Kansas, home Texas Tech. They go to Oklahoma State. We'll see if this team's going to be down just a little bit. What can Gundy pull a rabbit out of his hat a little bit? We'll get to later. And then at Utah and at home against Colorado. So I think they win 8 games again this year, especially to start out. And, I think they can win their first 4 out of 5 or right around there for sure. Johnson's the key. When in the big games, he was so great. In the bad games, he was awful. The numbers are really bad. And those losses, they seem like 2 picks or more. He's had some struggles on the road. Edwards, pretty good running back. They have Brown at receiver. They're going to need some other guys to come up, I think, big. And the line is a little bit shuffled. I know they have the All-American, all-conference center, but they need some help at some of the tackle positions. Those are new there. And I think the linebackers are a little bit of a strength for K-State. Defense has been pretty good, the last 4 years for the most part, especially against bad teams. They came up big. But the secondary does have some issues. I think the safety Payne's pretty good, but they definitely are going to, need some help there, especially at the cornerback position. So with a lot of these Big 12 teams, it's a little bit uncertainty. This is maybe one that's more of just kind of like the pencil in, I think at least 8-14, right?
Yeah, I think they get
that's
to 8
their win total.
sure. It's about do they get that 9 wins this season, because they get 8 wins every year under Kleiman. The last 4 straight seasons, they've gotten 8 wins. Do they get that 9th win? That's where I'm on the fence with K-State.
The big thing too is Johnson. It's just can he become just a better, in the pocket, completions, the whole thing. His accuracy, it's all that. If he can make a step forward, then I think they will.
Texas Tech. Yeah, no doubt. Texas Tech Red Raiders, Joey McGuire, head coach. Baron Morton is back at quarterback. They have the potential to be very explosive on offense. And this is a team that really threw around the NIL fund this year to really upgrade the roster big time.
Yeah.
Texas Tech. And they're hoping it takes them to that next level. Because last year, when you look at the way they finished, it was solid, but 6-3 in conference, 8-5 overall. But they want to contend for conference championships. That's not good enough for the folks in Lubbock. They want to be better than that and contend, and they did everything as far as upgrade roster in the offseason to try to make them a contender. This is the new world we live in, where there's going to be NIL money spent, and there's going to be roster upheaval and roster turnover like you've never seen before with so many programs year to year. And that makes it sometimes a little bit difficult to handicap how the team is going to fare on the field. And Texas Tech is a perfect example of that. Have they upgraded the roster, both sides of the football? Absolutely, on paper they have. There's no doubt. They brought in impact transfers, guys that were good players at other schools, both at P4 schools and G5 schools, that are going to be that were good players where they came from and have the potential to be very good players now for Texas Tech this season. But as always, chemistry's got to be there. The right fit's got to be there. And that's going to be something to watch for with Texas Tech. All these flashy additions that they brought in, are they all going to work? There's no doubt. And to be honest with you, when it comes to the quarterback, Baron Morton, he's been here a long time, and they expect a big year from him. There's also been some very shaky moments from him. So Baron Morton is one of those quarterbacks, you would like to see a little bit more from him here. The receiving core is very solid. There's no doubt. The offensive line last year didn't play great. They oftentimes gave up too much of a pass rush. Running the football wasn't always consistent because the O-line had protection issues in run blocking. But they have really worked to address that. 4 transfers brought in, many of them along the O-line to really help out. No question. They have a solid tandem at running back. Like I said, receivers are there. The veteran quarterback is there. And they really think they've heavily bolstered the offensive line. But again, fit, chemistry, that's got to show up. It's great. You've got the talent there on paper to have upgraded, but can it come together and gel and be cohesive, as a unit? That's what we have to wait and see. Defense, we know for Texas Tech last year had its issues. There's no doubt. And once again, they really went transfer portal heavy to shore up this group and upgrade the defense. On paper, they've done that. There's a new coordinator as well here on the defensive side of the football this year for Texas Tech. So again, all of these things point to a better team, a better roster, a better defense. There's no question about that. But again, you're talking about, new coordinators. There's new OC as well, Mac Leftwich. I mentioned the DC, Sheil Wood, now the DC here for Texas Tech. So there'll be new terminology for this Red Raiders offense that they're going to have to learn early in the year.
They got a new OC too. So Leftwich?
Yeah. Mac Leftwich. Yep. New OC. So again, new coordinators. I don't always love that, especially early in the season. But the good news is early in the season, they've got Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, and Oregon State. They can win all 3 of those games. No doubt. And that's what helps them out. So when these players, and they've got a bunch of new players and upgraded roster that they believe, and better players on both sides of the ball, Even though they have new coordinators and there'll be new systems, they have a few weeks to work out the kinks against an easy schedule and easier competition early in the season before they get into Big 12 play. And once they get into Big 12 play, their road schedule is very difficult. I could see them winning at West Virginia, but they got K-State on the road, Arizona State on the road, an improved Houston team on the road. We both like Utah to be a lot better this year. All of those road games. At home, they've got, Kansas, BYU, UCF. I would say they can win those, but they're not, just a shoo-in by any stretch of the imagination here for this Texas Tech team. The win total, again, 8.5, but this win total is minus 150 to the over. I ain't laying minus 150 over 8.5 with Texas Tech. Again, this all looks great. You spent money. The roster's better on both sides of the ball. I totally agree with what you brought in. All the personnel grades out to be very good that they brought in. But again, fit, chemistry, cohesion. Does it gel? Can Morton stay healthy? That's a bit of an issue in the past. Morton, can he be more consistent? At times, that's been an issue in the past. This has always been a program known to have horrendous defense. Can that group step forward this year? There's too many questions to say, yeah, I'm really excited about laying $150 for this team to be a 9-win team or more. I'm not excited enough about Texas Tech to do that. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, that's just the problem with this number and everything on it. Because like the schedule, I think they could be 5-1 going to that game against Arizona State, or maybe 3-2. Because I think they can win these first 3 games. Then at Utah, at Houston, I think they win at home against Kansas. So I think that's what they're looking at. But it was just too high. And what do you make? Like, these are good transfers. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah.
On offense, from the line, the running back, they got Joyner, a few others. They got a bunch of these receivers. We'll see what they can do. And a couple that return, Douglas, Eden. That's the big thing. And Morton, if he's good, it could stay healthy. I always like him too. And they're just a backable team at home. For me, is Texas Tech. Consistently, the road's been a little bit of their problem. And on the defensive end, yeah, this is a defense that I really don't love, but there's a bunch of transfers here. The tackles are pretty good. They got a couple edge rushers that are right. We'll see what the secondary can really do, but a lot of hype. And if we're just going off the win total, it's tough. But I do like their schedule, how it kind of sets up at least early before it gets tough. And in that crunch time, the last 4 games or so, can this team be playing better football, at the end too? That would make them a 9-win team. Hey, but too many question marks a little bit for me. Yeah. This was one. If it's a 7.5, I love it. But I think the books are right here. A lot of hype and easier schedule. And there's just, if Morton goes down, there's a lot of question marks with that too. That's been a position where it's been gone through the battle the last few years. Their quarterback just keeps going down.
Yep.
And
now Will Hammond played a little bit last year for Texas Tech. He got some playing time, but like I said, optimally. I will say this, Morton's numbers year by year, 2022, 23, 24, they've gotten better. His touchdown numbers have gone up. His completion rate's gone up, and the interceptions have gone down. Well, they stayed the same last year, the interceptions. But he has gotten better. But a lot of expectations. And another thing, too, I think it's flat out disrespectful that Arizona State's behind Texas Tech in the Futures Board in the Big 12. I would not put Texas Tech ahead of Arizona State. Texas Tech's got to show it to me first. You got a team that just came in there in 1 year, and look what he did. He brought Arizona State to a Big 12 championship. Texas Tech had expectations for years, quite honestly, and I've never met them. And we're going to put them ahead of Arizona State in the Big 12 Futures? Not in my mind. So I was a little surprised by that.
I think there could be the value, with the under 8.5. I mean, it's just nothing I don't think I'm going to bet, but just a little bit because of the easy schedule. But I've seen other people kind of like that now that was too high. They're taking them, they're going to win 7 or 8 games.
Iowa State Cyclones next up here. And obviously this is a program that last year lost in the Big 12 championship game to the Arizona State Sun Devils. And that defense just got gashed in that Big 12 championship game. I remember it. What was it, 40-some points that Arizona State put up on that Iowa State defense?
On the ground.
Yeah, big-time problems, no doubt. hard to believe it's the 10th season now for Matt Campbell as head coach here for Iowa State. It's crazy. It's been that long already, but he's been here a while. And look, this is an Iowa State team again. Here's what I like about Iowa State. I talked about how Texas Tech, they brought in all this talent, but so many new faces, for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. What I like about Arizona State, continuity. Same coordinators, same head coach, a lot of same players returning on the offense and defense for Arizona State. And the one thing I'll say about Iowa State is kind of the same thing, where they've got a lot of returnees back, which is going to help. Now, the one place that it is concerning is the receiving core. Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, two very good receivers, are gone, so they're going to have to find some new people to throw the football to. If you're the quarterback, Rocco Becht, who returns once again, of course, for the Iowa State Cyclones. It's taken me some time to really get comfortable and appreciate Rocco Becht. 2 years ago, it was when he first joined the scene, it was a bit of a struggle for him. What I don't love about last year for Rocco Becht is, yes, his touchdown numbers went up, but his completion rate went down, sub 60% last year, and he had one interception more last year compared to 2 years ago. So didn't exactly trend. I usually, when I have a multi-year starting quarterback, I want to see the numbers get better year after year after year, and his didn't have that big jump from 2023 to 2024. So, I've still got to continue to see more here from Rocco Becht as far as the passing game is concerned, even though this is always a team that's going to look to be balanced as far as running the football. They do have, as far as the run game is concerned, Matt Campbell's been stating he's going to go with both Carson Hansen and Abu Sama in that running back tandem. So we'll see how they go. They got 3 starters back on the O-line, which is good news coming into the year. The defense last year, that's the area where there were problems for Iowa State. They were, they've always been, I would say at least average to slightly above average on defense. You cannot say that about last year's group as they had issues. They did have injuries as well. That certainly hurt the defense, but they also didn't play as well on that side of the football. They should be better with health up front. The linebacking core, they have a couple of good ones there, no doubt. The secondary, though, we talked about this with Kansas State a little bit. Secondary for them, a lot of new faces, a lot of changes. Same thing with Iowa State. So, and it's funny, those two teams are playing each other the very first game of the season. I would say put your money on which quarterback you think is going to take more advantage of the vulnerable secondary on the other side. Do you think Avery Johnson's going to do a better job of that against Iowa State's revamped secondary? Or do you think Rocco Becht's going to do a better job of that against Kansas State's revamped secondary? That's probably what it's going to boil down to, that game, because that's the area of that's the position group for both teams, Kansas State and Iowa State, that has the biggest concern coming into the year, especially on defense. That's the secondary. So interesting to see how that plays out. You look at the Iowa State win total here coming into the year, currently lined at 7.5. This is the one I'm leaning over with a little bit, just because it's 7.5 at plus money in such a competitive conference. I think you're going to see a lot of teams that are in that 7-5, 8-4, 9-3, 10-2 type of range. Like, there's going to be a shit ton of teams, in my opinion, in that range as far as the final record is concerned, with just how competitive this conference is top to bottom. But Iowa State, unlike the teams we just talked about at the 8.5 number, you're getting Iowa State here at the 7.5 number and with even money. That said, they do have they have Iowa in the Cy-Hawk game. Kansas State, the first game won't be easy. They've got road games at TCU, at Colorado, at Cincy, although I've got concerns about Colorado, and I'm not sold Cincy's going to be great. So those are winnable spots, in my opinion. The home games are Arizona, BYU, Kansas. I'm not overly bullish on Kansas. Arizona State's going to be tough because I like them. And then they wrap up at Oklahoma State. I'll be honest, this is definitely a lean over for me. 7.5 plus 114 with Iowa State. You get them at that 7.5 number, unlike 8.5. And I think when you really, really look over it with a fine-tooth comb, their schedule is not leaps and bounds more difficult than a lot of those teams that are lined at 8.5. with the win total in this conference. So at 7.5, I'm leaning a bit over here with Iowa State. I haven't bet it yet. Not sure I will, but I'm definitely leaning in that direction, that over 7.5 at plus money does have some value for the Cyclones here. C-Mac, what do you think here, Iowa State?
I think it does too, a little bit. The big game, of course, at Dublin, K-State. They could beat South Dakota. They're at least home to Iowa, always a tough one. But I think they're gettable games at Arkansas State, then home in Arizona, and at Cincy, like you talked about. Like, it's not always easy, but I think they're games that they could get. Like, at least they go one out of two, like those back-to-back weeks they're on the road at Cincy, then at Colorado would be huge. At BYU at home, at TCU, they're always pretty solid at home at least, and then they finish the year, like you talked about, that last game against Oklahoma State. Just tons of question marks. I think they can win 8 games. The defense is big. Now they brought a bunch of transfers in. There was injuries that didn't help out, but that run defense, I'd never seen so bad ever. Especially with Campbell, it was just awful. But they got some decent guys back there. Decent guys in the secondary that I think are pretty good. You talked about Hansen, the running back. I think Rockobeck, great, game manager. I hate to put that on him, but that's kind of what he is. And they got some good receivers that are coming that they need some help with. And they kind of turned it a little bit more of an offensive team, on that side last year, I thought, than kind of previous years, where it's just like, play calling is really down. They want to run the ball. So, yeah, the defense has to be better. And I'm sure that's what Campbell wants to do here. But, yeah, I definitely lean the over 7.5. I think this team could definitely win 8 games with the schedule that they have.
All right. Yeah, good stuff. All right, next up, we've got the Baylor Bears. This was a tale of 2 seasons, really, this team. This was a team that definitely started poorly. We know that. It is a team that had issues. That they were just – I remember that season started, and it's like, could this defense be any worse? Like, that is how bad the season was early on for the Baylor Bears last year. And it looked like at one point things got so bad with that start to the season for the Baylor Bears. Like, you look at last year, I'll run it down for you the way it started. They did beat Tarleton State, but they lose to Utah. They did beat Air Force, and then they get 3 straight losses in Big 12 play against Colorado, BYU, and Iowa State. They were 2-3 at the time. They were 0-4 in the Big 12 at the time, giving up 38, 34, 43 points in those 3 losses that they suffered as well. And it looked like Dave Aranda was going to be out the door. Like, it really looked like, wow, he might be out. If not at the end of the season, maybe even an in-season coaching change. I was worried something might happen. And then the next thing you know, they rip off 6 straight wins to end the season, and they have some wins against some pretty good teams in the mix. Texas Tech, TCU, West Virginia on the road. They blow out Kansas, who was supposed to be very good. Now, Kansas underachieved last year, but they were expected to be good going in, and Baylor just blew them out. And Baylor just got on a roll, and I think it might have saved Dave Aranda's job. I think maybe without that 6-game win streak to end the season. Now, they did lose the bowl game to LSU, but they were competitive in that game, and they still scored 31. Their defense struggled, but
yeah. And fuck it, I got to say this: bowl games are turning into a bunch of bullshit. Yeah. I got to start just to throw that out there. Because no one knows who's playing.
I had Baylor in that game, but I had the over too. So thankfully we got out of that game with a split. But that's the issue for Baylor, is going to be the defense when they step up against some of the better offenses on their schedule. Can they get stops? And that's probably still the question. But, the fact that they finished so strong tells me the players didn't quit on Aranda. They like him. They played hard for him. And it tells me, I think the Baylor, there's reason for optimism this year when it comes to the Baylor Bears. Sawyer Robertson could be, one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12 this year. His performance down the stretch in the second half was amazing. This guy had 22 touchdowns in his last 8 games. 22 touchdowns in his 8 games. He was very accurate with the ball. His numbers were awesome down the stretch. Don't be scared that he's a big, tall, white kid. He can run. He's a very good runner, Sawyer Robertson. We found that out last year. And, he's going to come into this season with quite a bit, of confidence. 28 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 62% completions last year. Those are pretty good numbers when you look at the way Sawyer Robertson played for this Baylor team. They got 4 of their 5 starters back on an offensive line that was very good last year. I mean, this offense is going to be very good. This could be one of the better offenses in this entire conference, to be quite honest with you, Baylor. Like, they should have no problem moving the football. Bryson Washington's back at running back. They got a fellow Cameron returning at receiver. And they've got Louis Brown, Cole Wilson, Prentice. They've got some good weapons there at that position as well for Baylor. The defense is going to be the key. You can't give up the big plays they did last year. You can't give up 6 yards per play like they did last year. That defense is going to be make or break, but they got starters back. He went to the portal to try to really shore up the level of talent on that side of the ball on all 3 levels. I think the defense will be better this year. Now, and as long as that defense can go from bad to decent, they don't have to be a great defense, because I think they're going to have a great offense. They don't have to have a great defense. They just have to have a decent defense. It can't be a bad defense. It can't be a horrible defense like it was last year. As long as it's a decent and improved defense, Baylor could win a lot of games this year. I like them over 7.5. I think they can get to 8-4 this season. You look at the schedule. That game against Auburn's big, but Auburn, I've got questions. I think that's a winnable game, especially because Auburn has to go to Waco for that game.
Yeah, I think it's definitely winnable.
I think SMU's stepping back this year a little bit. I wouldn't count them out of being competitive, Baylor, against SMU either. Samford, they'll win. Now, Arizona State's going to be the tough game, but you look at a lot of the schedule down after that. At Oklahoma State, they could certainly win. At Cincinnati, I'm not big on this year. They can win that. UCF's got questions. At Arizona, Houston to end the year. They can all win those games, in my opinion. So when you look at this, I think this team can get to 8. And that's what I think if you're going to look at some value, and some, once you get past the first few teams, in the to win the Big 12, Baylor's not a bad option in that 7-8-1 range. C-Mac, what do you think here for the Baylor Bears?
I think they have some success is they're at home in a lot of these games and winnable road games. At Cincy, they're at Arizona.
Majority of their toughest games are at home, especially
at home.
Play. Yep.
Yeah, and it won't be easy, but that's a better place to be here, especially with this offense. And right out of the chute versus Auburn, a little bit. They're dogs. I think the game's at Pick'em now. I haven't checked it the last few days. And another thing, they don't have to leave Texas basically the first month. And then after that, their 5th game is Oklahoma State. Not much travel there at all early. Even though it's at SMU, just easy travel for them. The offense is it. The defense lets into that. They have all these transfers. Yeah. We'll see how it works, though. They got some size up front. They got a few playmakers, it looks like, maybe that could work in the secondary. But I think it's the offense with the running backs, that they have, Pendergrass, and then they have all these receivers, Cameron, Hawkins. They got the San Diego State transfer, Brown.
Yep.
They got the guy from Alabama.
I just think he's talent on defense. Like, if it meshes, this is going to be a better defense, I think.
Yeah. On the defense side of the ball, we'll see how. It's kind of a huge question mark. That's the only thing there. But I definitely think Roberts at quarterback. I was, surprised by the way. I mean, he played great to end the year, and he's got the weapons. That's the biggest thing. I think the line's pretty good too. This offensive line is solid. You know what I mean? It's not like where they're having a whole bring and recreate and see what works. I think Baylor's a team to look out for a little bit. It was so bad to start the year, like you mentioned, but at least it's something to go forward to, the way that they enter. And it looks like we got our guy in Robertson at quarterback, the way he played.
I know it. I was riding Baylor down the stretch and overs, and he was a big component of it. No doubt his play at the quarterback spot was absolutely outstanding. We'll see if he can continue that this year. I could pretty much just regurgitate everything I just said about Baylor, a lot of it about TCU. I think this is going to be a better football team this year as well. I like Josh Hoover. Yeah. the quarterback. There's no question. He's back this year. I thought he played really well for a majority of last year. Now, the one concern is they have a lot of new faces at receiver. But again, you can replace those if they're quality people that you bring in. And then when you look at it, as far as the running back situation goes, I think that should be improved because the O-line should be better, in my opinion, this year for TCU, no doubt. I like the look of that offensive line coming into the year. The defense 3 years ago, most of the tenure here for TCU under Sonny Dykes, they've not had a good defense. Last year wasn't a great defense either, but last year across the board, the defensive numbers for TCU were better than they were 2 years ago. So they did make incremental improvement on the defense last year, and I think they'll probably continue to trend that way here this season. They are going to have to get better stopping the run. That was a problem last year. The secondary, actually, this is a secondary that starts the year, in my opinion, maybe in some better shape than the likes of Kansas State or Iowa State. It's more of a concern against the run that I have for the TCU defense coming into this season. Yeah. As far as their schedule is concerned, they start at North Carolina in a big-time Monday night, Labor Day night game, that first full weekend of the college football season, trying to spoil Bill Belichick's debut as a college football head coach with the North Carolina Tar Heels. That game, to me, is a toss-up. Abilene Christian after that should be a win. SMU, because I've got questions about how good, if SMU is going to be as good this year. TCU can probably hang and have a chance in that game against SMU. At Arizona State will be difficult. At Kansas State will be difficult. So they do have two tough road games. You look at the home games, though. Colorado, winnable. I do like Baylor, but I also like TCU a bit coming into the year. That's winnable, even though I like Baylor as well. Iowa State, at least, they get it at home in Fort Worth. Cincinnati, they can win that game at home. The road games at BYU, we've got questions about BYU, West Virginia. Is it going to work in year one under Rich Rod right away? It's not like TCU can't go to Morgantown and win that on October 25th. So I bet TCU over 6.5. That's the win total. Now, when I took it, a couple of weeks ago when I started doing my work on this conference, it was minus 130. The juice on that 6.5 now is like minus 175. I don't know if I'd lay it at that price for TCU over 6.5, but I definitely think TCU's got it in them to be at least 7-5 here in the Big 12 this season. No question about that. Because when you look at TCU last year, they finished the season 6-3 in Big 12 play, 8-4 on the year. And I think the defense is better, and they got their quarterback back, Josh Hoover. So I think they can be a 7-win team. So it's a lot of juice, but I like over 6.5 with TCU. C-Mac, what do you think here for the Horned Frogs?
Yeah, I'll hit on the defense. Like the first 4 games gave up 37 points or whatever. The last 6 or 7, they gave up only 19.
Big
big improvement. And I don't know if many people probably even know that or looked at it, but it was a difference. And they bring a bunch of these guys back. Can it be like a step forward for them? And the offense with Hoover, I mean, the guy just throw it around. He's like the guy in their backyard. He's like a Johnny Manziel. He should run around. He can throw some, bad interceptions, but they have some big playmakers. McAllister. They got a pretty good line. They bring back 3 or 4 starters and a couple of transfers that I think will plug right in. That'll be big for this team. And see if they get a little more balance and run the ball a little bit more. But yeah, and this schedule, I mean, it just sets up. It's kind of we'll see with North Carolina. We've talked about them, just the massive question marks. I think that's a gettable game. At Abilene Christian, they're at least home to SMU, at home with Colorado. And they got a couple tough ones. The Kansas State, Arizona State, you hit on. Coin flip with Baylor, even at home. But I think this team wins 7 games for sure. I mean, 8 probably is more like it. And I'd love to see more of this with their defense, and see more of a step forward with their linebackers and some of the secondary. That'd be big. It'd just be because at a team like Baylor they're one of the worst pass defense in the country. Can that change with some of the guys that they're bringing in? You know what I mean? There's major issues. They were a little bit better here. So the defense is always hit on. If they're a lot better, TCU's a lot better, I think.
All right, we have agreement there. All right, next up, the BYU Cougars. Oh boy, this is a fun team to talk about. Let's start with the obvious fact. Last year, 10-2 season for BYU. They were in contention to win the Big 12. Their Big 12 conference record last year was 7-2. And yet you look at the box scores of all their games, and game by game throughout last year, it's going to go down as one of the most fortuitous, catch every break, get every bit of good luck to go your way type of seasons in recent memory. That's what it felt like. They were riding this magic carpet last year where it's, Jesus Christ, they're pulling out every game out of their keister last year of BYU, games they easily could have lost. Look at all the coin flip results that went their way last year. The SMU game on the road, pulled it out by a field goal. The Baylor game went back and forth. They won by 6. Oklahoma State, I don't know how they came back to win that game against Oklahoma State, but they did it in Provo, 38-35. The UCF game, that was back and forth. The Utah game, my goodness, pulling that one out in the dying moments of that game. And then finally, the luck ran out late in the season. The Kansas loss, the Arizona State loss, back to back. But there's a lot of games where outstatted, outyarded, outgained, and living on turnover margin and special team scores and all this other stuff. And look, credit to them, but you put if you look in the dictionary, and there is a such thing as poster child for regression in the dictionary, there'd probably be a picture of the BYU 2025 football team on it. Seriously. And that's just based on all the fortune and fortuitous nature of the way their games played out last year. And that's just with that. I haven't even mentioned yet the fact that Jake Retzlaff, their quarterback from last year, is now no longer there. He got the old Mormon ban for bad conduct, disorderly breaking the code, whatever the fuck you want to call it, at BYU. He's no longer there. And all of a sudden, right in the middle of camp, and you're getting ready for the season, you're now scrambling if you're Kalani Sitake Mushrooms, and now you've opened it up to 3 quarterbacks battling for the spot to be the starter. And who knows if any of these guys can play. We just haven't seen them much at all, if at all. Between the 3 guys that are battling right now to be the starting quarterback, McKay Hillstead, who has apparently got the lead right now, but Trayson Bourget and Bear Bachmeier are all in the mix to be the quarterback for BYU. So, look, it was already a team that I thought would take a step back this year just based on how they pulled out every close game, and it's just unlikely that happens again 2 years in a row. But then you factor in Retzlaff being gone, and it's clear why everyone expects this team to be down this year, just based on that. But then you even look further than that as far as this game goes, or as far as this team goes. 3 starters on the O-line are gone. New quarterback, who knows how good they're going to be. LJ Martin should be a good running back, and Chase Roberts is back, which is, this guy seems like he's been at BYU for 10 years, Chase Roberts, but he's back. They do lose Lassiter, though, and Marion, 2 of their other big receivers. So there'll be even more focus on Roberts this year to be the dominant receiver, which he's capable of. And then, of course, the defense last year, which was pretty solid, but 3 starters, that's it, are returning on that side of the football. So absolutely, I think the defense takes a huge step back. So the defense takes a step back. 3 starters are gone on the O-line. Your quarterback's gone. You're going to have inexperience regardless of who's starting at quarterback. The schedule as well, which I haven't even brought up yet, is a little bit more challenging if you compare it to some of the schedules of the other Big 12 teams and what they're going to end up having this year when you look at that. So, like I said, there's definitely a lot of concerns. You got to play at Iowa State, at Texas Tech. You got to play TCU. There's definitely some concerns there. But my big concern is the adjustment, CMAC. This is a 10-2 team last year. everybody seems to be aware of they're going to decline. They're not going to be as good. Their quarterback's gone. And I'm just not sure if now that we see 6.5, I'm comfortable betting under. I could only take the under. Trust me, I don't want over. Even at the adjusted number down at 6.5, there's no way I'm betting BYU over 6.5 wins. It's under or pass for me. But the concern I have is, has it been adjusted now enough or too much to what's going on at BYU with this number at 6.5? C-Mac, what do you think?
The big key is, at least on the schedule, is like, can they beat Portland State? They're at home to Stanford, East Carolina. We'll see. That's not going to be easy going all the way there, but maybe not the toughest game. So like to start, having 3 or 4 wins, because the rest of the way, I think it's there's problems here for this BYU team. And the quarterback situation is just tough. We'll see it in those first few games, like what's going to go on with the 3 quarterbacks that they have to deal with. But I think the O-line will be fine. They do have the few starters. They got a few transfers. They're one of the teams too. They're able to plug them in. It's like Iowa linemen, you know what I mean? Just those, they breed them there, and they're ready to go. They're grown men. They're 24, 25 years old. So I think the line will be fine. There's some issues on defense. They do have some good linebackers. Kelly's pretty good. Glasgow was excellent. Had pretty good numbers. So I think they might be all right on the defensive side of the ball a little bit. Just a lot of question marks for a team that, I thought they were good, and valued early on in the year. And then they were laying numbers, losing, not covering them, barely winning those games. And against some teams that just weren't very good. Oklahoma State, you mentioned that wild game. They approached at home, then at Utah, which is probably Utah's worst year. They should have lost that game, and just a wild one. So, will they have that luck? To me, until we see things that, I think they're a 6-7 win team. And that's just a full question mark on who the quarterback will be, Yep. So it's tough to bet this team unless you really think you really love the under to jump on. I just don't.
Or you have a strong opinion, or you like the over because you have a strong opinion on one of these 3 quarterbacks being really good, better than the markets think. Yeah.
And you think you can start out 3-0 with that schedule, at least. And basically, you got to pick off 4 wins the rest of the way down that schedule. Yeah, you definitely, for sure.
There's just way too many negative variables compared to positive variables for me for BYU coming into the year to bet.
I get it.
That's where I'm at. So
Retzlaff gone. He's at Tulane too, right?
Yeah, he is.
He's at Tulane. Yeah.
That being said, and he's a good quarterback. I don't know if they're losing a great quarterback though.
Well, BYU. For what he's kind of great for there at BYU. Fit
that off.
Yeah,
as well,
for sure.
No doubt. All right, Colorado Buffaloes next up.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. First of all, shout out to Deion Sanders. Unbelievable what he's gone through. And he disclosed that earlier this week in his press conference to update his health situation, that he had bladder cancer. He had his original bladder totally removed and a new one put in. And issues obviously going to the bathroom, peeing 4 or 5 times a night, pissing 4 or 5 times a night, all that stuff. And still goes to the washroom, to urinate more frequently than he ever has before. But more importantly than all of that, and he made light of it. That's Deion right there, still making a joke out of something very serious. But at the end of the day, he's cancer-free, and that's the main thing. It's amazing he had all that going on, and his team didn't even know about it. He didn't tell anybody about it. And obviously kept it under wraps. But obviously he's been given a clean bill of health, cancer-free, and he is ready to rock now, back on the sidelines for the Colorado Buffaloes here as a head coach this season. Last year, 9-4 was the overall record. Shedeur Sanders gone, Heisman Trophy winner, Travis Hunter, two-way player, secondary and receiver, gone. It's those are 2 great talents to have to replace, no doubt. And they tried to fill the void at quarterback by going to a pretty good quarterback, veteran. He's won a lot of games. The Liberty transfer, Caden Salter, is going to be the new starting quarterback. Now, Julian Lewis was battling with him for a bit, but I'd be shocked if Salter's not the guy. He's got tons of experience. He's won a lot of games at the college level. I fully expect Caden Salter is going to be the starting quarterback here for Colorado this season. Dallin Hayden, and Michael Welch will lead them at running back. Joseph Wilson, Omarion Miller will be the top 2 receivers, of course, with Hunter gone. We'll see how that unit goes. The offensive line was borderline pathetic at times last year. Now, there were times it played well, but there was just way too many times Shedeur Sanders still running for his life, having to move his legs and keep plays alive. And let's be honest, it just wasn't good enough, the offensive line play from Colorado. Well, they've went transfer heavy, portal heavy to try to shore up this offensive line. They know they have to. It has to be better. There's no question about that. The Colorado defense, I do think, did play better. Remember, 2 years ago, they couldn't stop anything. But last year, I do think they got better and better and better as the season went on. The first-year coordinator, now in his first year this year, Robert Livingston. We'll see how it goes. But that defense did improve last year for Colorado later in the year. And again, they went portal heavy to address the defense. They even got an Alabama transfer for the D-line, a couple of good players from G5 schools for the linebacking core. DJ McKinney should be one of the better secondary players. They do lose Hunter, but McKinney they like quite a bit. So that defense did improve later in the year last year, and certainly it gives you a hope that the defense is at least decent or solid this year for Colorado. But questions about the quarterback. The offensive line, it was horrible last year. Can it be better? And the one thing that Dion and the coaching staff, including the OC, because we haven't seen Dion a lot, but I know the OC has said this, Pat Shurmur, offensive coordinator, we have got to commit to running the football this year. Enough. We have got to commit to running the football this year. We can't be doing the shit we've done 2 years in a row where we're putting too much on Sanders' plate or the quarterback's plate, in this case this year Salter, and throwing the ball 30, 40 times and putting our offensive line, which is still in question, in a spot where they got to protect for the pass 40 times a game. No, we've got to make life easier on this O-line, which is a work in progress. And the way to do that is commit to running the football. And that has been a mantra coming out of Colorado here in spring camp and also the current August camp and lead up to the season. We've got to commit to running the ball more, period. It's as simple as that. So the point why I bring that up is, could this be an under team with game totals this year? We always think of Colorado, they play fast. The offense with Sanders and company could put up points, but the defense was shaky.
Yeah, I think it could be different.
Got better last year down the stretch, and this offense wants to slow the game down. They also didn't play as fast from a pace and tempo standpoint once Shurmur took over as the play caller. That's another thing to point out about Colorado last year. So could this be a team maybe transitioning more instead of those 38-35 games every week? Maybe they're going to play more in that 24-21, 27-24 type of ball game this year. Running the football more, taking pressure off the O-line, and maybe the defense, which showed strides last year of improvement, being decent this year. Something to keep in mind, because I just have that feeling that there could be more of that under team with the totals in Colorado games this year. As far as my opinion on them, side-wise or futures-wise, there's just so much going on. Dion coming back from his health scare, new quarterback, changes galore on the offense and the offensive line, losing just in unreal talents like Sanders and Hunter, and there's just a lot going on. I don't feel comfortable either way. I would lean under, but it's kind of like BYU all over again, where do I want to take it 5.5 now under the total and ask for them to be 5-7 or worse? I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that. It's almost like a win-one for the Gipper too. This head coach who they love, the players always love Dion. That's never been the issue. Trying to, all-out effort type of deal for the coach here in this scenario. Scare coming off a cancer scare. That's something you have to factor in. But I just don't know if personnel, talent-wise, Salter's been a good college quarterback and he's experienced. But let's also forget, he's coming from Liberty and Conference USA, and that conference fucking stinks. Okay. Yeah. You have to remember that. That conference is lousy. It's no good. So Now
Yeah.
playing Big
He went
12
through the motions
defenses
last
every
year
week.
too.
Yeah, now
Same.
playing Big 12 defenses every week, C-Mac. Let's see what Caden Salter's made of here, because this is a step up in competition for him at the quarterback spot too. What are your thoughts, C-Mac? There's a very interesting team to dissect, Dion and the Colorado Buffaloes.
Yeah, to me, like it'd be big, I think, if they win 6 or 7 games, because I don't think they do. But it would be right away, like the win at home versus Georgia Tech. I think we could beat Delaware. They're at Houston. They're at home to Wyoming. Like if they're gonna start, all right, it could be. So we could know there if they're losing to these, like if they get beat up at home, or go to Houston and lose, then because I think the rest of the year just gets tougher. They do go to West Virginia, but that won't be easy. They do have Arizona State at home, and then end the year at Kansas State. Yeah, there's nothing I definitely could bet. I'd take the under or nothing, but there's just too much improvement. Like Salter, at least you have him at quarterback, but the line completely new again. So it's like the third or fourth year right in a row, just full whole new line, all new receivers. They do have these transfers. Williams, both Williams. They have Williams from Florida State and a few others. They got the running back guy from McCartney, Word Taylor. They have to run the ball. Like that's the thing. Maybe they will be a little bit of a team. I want to see them right away, week 1 and 2. You know what I mean? Like, because how is this going to work? One thing on defense, I think there's struggles where they play better, but at least the front 4 or even 7 linebackers, they do have a couple, or is good. That's who they're bringing back. I think they got some great D linemen. There's still problems in the secondary where they brought in a bunch of transfers, see if it can work. But I think the front 7 might be all right. Definitely the D line. So that's about it for Colorado. This is interesting, as it always is. But man, Dion's got his hands full here, I think.
It's going to be interesting because, like I said, it's boy, oh boy, I do have a lot of personnel questions. That's not the easiest schedule either. There's Arizona State, K-State, Utah, Iowa State, TCU, all on that schedule. Georgia Tech in a tough opener to begin the season, even though Colorado gets that game in Boulder. So, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what's. Like I said, I got to see it before I believe it. Yet I'm 5.5. It feels like wow. There's a lot of that feels like it's been padded toward the under a little bit. That being said, I'd still lean that way. All right, Utah Utes. Now here's a team that obviously everything went wrong last year. It started with Cam Rising. He was trying to play through injury. It finally got to the point where he took enough of beating that's enough. They shut him down. He also retired during the season last year. And then once they got to the backup quarterback and the third string quarterback, and it was backup quarterbacks the whole year, the offense just died. I mean, it was just not very good. They couldn't move the football. Neither guy could throw the ball with any sort of consistency or effectiveness. Well, that might be about to change this year for the Utah Utes. This is still a winning culture, a winning program for the better part of 20 years that Kyle Whittingham's been here. And what I love about Utah coming into the year is that they're always good in the, we know they're always pretty strong in the trenches. And this year, we expect the trenches to be good. It should be a strength of this football team. A very good offensive line is back. And he decided, you know what? We've had a pretty solid, and I don't blame the defense was not as good last year. But I don't think it was all, whoa, we just we just forgot how to play good defense here at Utah.
Yeah, it's tough when you're on the field all the fucking time,
There you go.
Geez.
When you're 3 and out every freaking drive with ineptitude at the quarterback position, I don't care what defense you have. You're going to get tired. You're going to get worn down, and you're going to struggle. And that's exactly what we saw. I think the defensive personnel last year is better than the results show. But they were on the field too damn much. C-Mac hit it on the head there perfectly, and they just got worn down. This year it'll be different, though. I think this offense will be much improved. I am a fan of Devin Dampier, the New Mexico transfer, who's been brought in to be the quarterback. He can run. His arm is pretty good. I know it's New Mexico, but let's be honest. New Mexico offensively outperformed expectations, and a lot of it was the talent that Devin Dampier has. And what makes this transition and transfer of him going to Utah even better is he's got his OC coming there with him, Jason Beck, who is the offensive coordinator at New Mexico. He's joining Dampier here at Utah, so it'll be the same system, same offense, same terminology, no learning curve for Dampier. He's got his OC, he knows this offense, and he's got the opportunity potentially to hit the ground running right from day one with this Utah offense. That's what you love to see, and obviously I'm excited to see what could happen here. Now, look, there's some new faces at receiver, but again, the receiving position wasn't great last year for Utah either, so I don't know if it's that big of a deal. I think it's more so that, hey, you finally have a quarterback that can get some of these guys the football, unlike last year, which was the big problem with the Utah offense. Ryan Davis, Creed Whitmore are going to be the guys counted upon here at the receiver spot. The O-line should be good. Again, the defense took a huge step back last year, but even with the offense wearing them down because they couldn't stay on the field and defense had to play the whole game, they still weren't that bad. They were still 20.7 points per game. They were third fewest yards per play allowed per game last year, Utah, and that's with the defense being on the field all the time. So you've got to think that defense could play better this year, no doubt. They always recruit well along the defensive line. I expect more of the same. Secondary had some issues last year, but I expect some improvement there with some returning production in that secondary. As you can tell, I think the demise of the Utah football program, just because of last year, that what happened to them is being exaggerated. 2-7 in Big 12 play, 5-7 overall. Not even a winning, didn't even get to 500. That's disappointing. It's a terrible year for a school like Utah. I get it. But people are acting like Utah is just all of a sudden going to be bad now every year, and it's over. The run of excellence is over. I'm not buying it. Not with Kyle Whittingham at the helm. It's a winning program. It's a quarterback now that he's finally got a good quarterback. I think Utah has a better season. I like them over 7.5. Unfortunately, the juice has moved up to -160 or so, but I still like them to be 8-4. I've got Devin Dampier to win the Heisman. I've got Utah to win the Big 12. I got Utah to make the playoff. That's right. That's how big I am on Utah. Utah to make the playoff is worth a sprinkle, in my opinion, this season. And you can get Utah in that range at, let me see what the up-to-date price is on that with Utah. Plus 520. Why not? A little sprinkle. Because we know this coach is capable of it here. And if Dampier plays to the level I think he could, this could be a much better Utah team than some people might think. So, and here's another point I'll throw out there about Utah before I give it to Connor here. We've thought for years, Utah, run heavy offense, slow plotting, slow pace, methodical offense, great defense. Maybe a sneaky over team. We talked about a sneaky under team with game totals for Colorado. Maybe a sneaky over team with game totals for Utah this year, because they're going to play fast with Beck and Dampier on offense. They play tempo. New Mexico was 25th in plays per game last year. They play up tempo. And you're going to see that here now with this Utah offense after years and years of these. Like, if they're going to start throwing out 40s and low 50s totals again with Utah this year, I think there's going to be value betting Utah games over the total this year. C-Mac, what do you think here for Utah?
Yeah, well, to hit on that, the biggest thing is kind of if he just kind of, just gives the reins full on with Beck, like, do your thing. Like,
run your offense. Yeah. Sounds like he is. Like, go up tempo.
It sounds like it.
Do your thing. Yeah.
We'll see. There's always that,
he's not typically
that
head
coach and
run
OCs
that way, though, in his 20 years.
Yes. Yeah. How much he'll buy into it. But I do think it'll be a little bit quicker with Beck there. And, I like Dampier. They could run. I think they'll be able to run the football well and hopefully be able to make some big plays. And they got a few guys. Davis came over, Simmons from Southern Miss, just a couple that could help out Dampier. But the guy's a gamer. He is. I love watching him in New Mexico. And New Mexico's horrible, and they had a horrible defense. But I think they're pretty good. The line, it still brings back a few. Like I talked about, I think they're going to be solid, the offensive line. And I think the defense will be pretty good here. When I look through everything, it's always solid. We mentioned everything, a little bit of the problem last year, but this is Whittingham. It's everyone says like, yeah, bet at your own against him. Like, I don't want to. Like, and it's the juice has gone crazy because I think they could win 8 games, but am I loving over 7.5 at -160? No, I'm just not. I mean, but when the guy's won that long, it's just tough, especially as a guy who's backed them like crazy, especially at home the last 10 or 15 years with him there, and just to have an awful season. Like, I'm not going against it, but I think they have winnable games,
Here's the
at
key. I'll
UCLA.
just jump in and say this right now. Here's the key. Every single game for Utah up against the best teams in the Big 12 on paper heading into the season, they've got all those Big 12 contenders, every single one of them at home. They don't play a single road game to me. Maybe Baylor's a dark horse contender in the Big 12, and I did mention they could be.
Their big games are at home. It's Arizona State, K-State.
Texas Tech, Arizona State, all at home. Texas Tech, Arizona State, and then Kansas State, all at home at Rice.
I think that's why. Yeah, and that leads to why it's at 7.5 and juice. Because you're exactly right. The road games, at Wyoming, at BYU, which is always a good game. Then they're home at Colorado. They're home at Cincy. Then you mentioned the Baylor game at home, K-State, and they finish with Kansas, which could be big. And maybe to end the year if you're on the win total. It's nothing that I bet, but I just think they're definitely a lot better. And maybe they do win this, but it's just at -1, just the high juice at 7.5. I couldn't bet it, but I get why people like it. I can't wait to see what Dan Pierre does there and this Utah team, especially right out of the chute against UCLA.
Yeah, I'm excited
at the Rose Bowl.
I'm excited to see how he could play.
A tough place to play. Even for Utah in the past to go out west against SC or UCLA.
Yes.
Even with their good teams. So.
That won't be a cakewalk, but I have my concerns for UC.
UCLA has their issues. Should be good, though.
Not sure Nico, as we call
him. Yeah, we'll see.
Polyov is the
big guy, Nico.
For UCLA, but that's another story. All right, Kansas Jayhawks. Obviously, I like the coach a lot. We know what he's done in just a short time here with Kansas. Excuse me. There we go. Get that out of my system. We know what he's done. He still had a great run here with the Kansas Jayhawks. Lance Leipold, 5th season now. But new coordinators, both sides of the ball, entering this season. That's a concern. A lot of new the fall off last year for Kansas. Obviously, that's a concern. 4-5 in conference play, 5-7 overall. After they had consistently gotten better and better under Leipold, and last year they took a step back for a team that was expected to contend for the Big 12. Now, unfortunately, Jalen Daniels had a big step back last year. That was a quarterback we liked quite a bit. He did not perform. This is a quarterback. There's a lot of quarterbacks that took a step forward last year in the Big 12. You can't say that about Jalen Daniels. He went backward, and he went backward big time. Like, this is a guy that 2022, he had 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 66% completions. You know what his numbers were last year? 57% completions. Touchdowns went down from 18 to 14, and his interceptions went up from 4 in 2022 to 12 interceptions last year. Like, it was just, let's be honest, let's call it like we see it. He got worse when he's supposed to be getting better as he gets more experience. So that's not what you want to see necessarily out of Jalen Daniels. Can he have a bounce back here? We'll have to wait and see. There's a lot of people assuming he's going to bounce back and be among the top quarterbacks. I'll still have to see it with a new offense to work with. 3 new starters on the offensive line, totally revamped receiving core, new faces galore at wide receiver. The jury's out. I'm not jumping on the Jalen Daniels bounce back train. I have to see it before I believe it, especially when there's new turnover on the O-line, new starters galore on the in the receiving core. Let's also see what that does. The defense, 3 starters are back. That's it. Now, they went transfer portal heavy, and they did bring in some talent, but can it come together? Can it be cohesive? That's going to be the question for a Kansas team that on the defensive side of the football, it came unglued for them last year. while Jalen Daniels declined. Why also did they have struggles, especially early in the year when the season got away from them with that 5-game losing streak in September and October? It's because they were giving up, high 20s and 30s every game on defense, and you just can't win that way if you're Kansas. So there's just a lot of questions here. I I wouldn't put it past Leipold to have a bounce back year, but when you've got a quarterback that's got worse, not better, which is not supposed to happen, it's supposed to get better, not worse, with all the experience he's had. When you've got a new revamped O-line, 3 new starters, you got a totally different receiving core, still some big-time questions on defense, and the fact that, Fresno State's not an easy first game, even though it's at home. You got to go to Missouri, in a non-conference game. That's not going to be easy. You've got, on your schedule, you do get the home games against Kansas State, which does help, one of your tougher games. But then you got at Texas Tech on the road, Iowa State on the road. You're going to have to finish against a much improved Utah team. So there's questions here for Kansas. Win totals wise, I like the under. I think it's just going to be a little too much to overcome. The trajectory of Daniels worries me. So when it's all said and done, pessimistic on. And I hate saying that about Leipold because he's the kind of coach that maybe can get his team to bounce back strong, but you're going to give me 7.5 under. It's minus 150. It is a little pricey, but I don't think they're an 8-win team, Kansas. I don't. I think they're 7-5. They could even be 6-6. I mean, we're asking Kansas this year after a disappointing season last year, their quarterback regressing. We're asking Kansas now after only being a 5-7 team last year to suddenly win 3 more games this year. I don't see it. Maybe 1 win more, 2 wins more. I don't know about 3 to get to the 8 that's necessary for that over 7.5. I don't see it. So Kansas under 7.5 for me. C-Mac, what do you think here, Kansas Jayhawks?
I think it'll be a little bit. The stadium's at least done, renovated. That's going to be ready, right, for opening that Fresno game. Yeah,
David Booth, Kansas Memorial Stadium is where they're playing this year. Yeah.
It'll be good to go. That was a little bit of I thought a problem. They had their own play. You know what the biggest with this team was? Just horrible. They were horrible in the second half. They were absolutely horrible in the fourth quarter. Just one of the better teams that leading and just fell apart. Turnovers, the defense, it crushed me multiple times last year. Having Kansas, can they turn that around? Bad in one-score games.
Renovations will be done this year, so they will be ready for this season.
Well, it's going to be ready
a little bit, but a lot of
it'll just be better that they're there. I think for last year, kind of dealing with
they were like a nomad team, for their home.
Yeah, yes. A little bit. I mean, Daniels is back. I mean, I can't believe he's still eligible.
They played at Arrowhead all their.
Yeah, they played in Arrowhead.
Yeah.
But he's back. I mean, he's like his 10th year. The ups and downs with him, when he's really good, it's good. He's athletic. When it's bad, it can be bad. And the turnovers that they have, and there's just a lot of question marks from the line to the receivers and the defense, which at times I thought played okay last year. One thing, the line's pretty solid. That's who they bring back a lot. It's the secondary I have a problem with here with Kansas. That was a little bit of the problem in the meltdowns of last year. Whereas that secondary, they give up big plays, and it's like the first half of football, they play all right and then just get burned. So can they take a step forward? And for the schedule, opening game, then they have Wagner, but at Missouri, they do have West Virginia there and Cincy. But these are tough. Even with UCF down, those 2 road games there and at Texas Tech back-to-back weeks won't be easy. If they split there, if they could get a win at UCF, that would help to that can go over. But I don't know if they could do that. They have Oklahoma State at home. They have Kansas State at home. At Arizona, is that a gettable game? We'll see with this Arizona team, what they're going through with Fafita and everything there. And, at Iowa State and then at home versus Utah. It's tough for me to think they win 8 games. I think it's 7 at best. We'll see right away in some of those big ones. Right away, to start 2-0 for sure would be good before they, go to Missouri.
There we go. That's 10 of the 16 teams in the Big 12. We'll just go with a couple quick hitters briefly on our way out about some of the other teams. CMAC, of the teams we have not discussed yet, any strong opinions you have on the remaining 6 teams in the Big 12?
No, I don't. Nothing really strong to bet that I was gonna give out. I like Oklahoma State under their win total. I just hate going against Gundy, but I think this team isn't very
That's
good.
the only reason I'm thinking maybe they could be better, because everything else says this is a program in shambles. Everything else you read tells me that they're just in shambles right now, and I don't even know if the great Mike Gundy, who's done wonders here in Stillwater, can fix it.
Yeah, it just seems like they're going all these routes. There's so many transfers. Talking about in and out, this team, it's just crazy. So can they bring in some of these guys from the portal to be better? But
a new coordinator,
so sure.
Both sides of the ball here at Oklahoma.
Both sides. They don't even know what they want to play. Still run and gun, like everything I'm reading now. They still go back to spread here. Like I've heard there's all issues with that and what Gundy wants, like with his coordinators bringing in. So to me, it's under, but it wasn't enough. It was crazy. There wasn't one of these extra last teams that like I love to say to go bet. We already touched on the teams that I kind of liked. So anything with you?
Well, only 3 starters back on defense, and the offensive line doesn't have 1 starter back.
No, there's nothing there on the yeah.
Yeah, and who knows at quarterback? Yeah, the defense stunk terrible last year, so they've got so much to go there. The quarterback, apparently neither of these guys has really stood out. Zane Flores and House Hejny, the 2 guys that are battling for quarterbacks, the spot there. So I'm with you, under or nothing for Oklahoma State. West Virginia, here's the thing with them. It's a tricky team because usually Rich Rod, we saw it right away, first year at Jacksonville State. Rich Rod got that team going, and they had a great first season.
Yeah.
Could that happen again? But the problem is, now you're in a tougher conference, better competition, and it is a big scheme change, system change. It's going to go with the up-tempo offense, run heavy, quarterback run, the typical, Rich Rod, run-oriented, up-tempo spread offense. That's what you get out of him. But it's different from what West Virginia ran under Neil Brown, the formerly departed head coach. So, that's the concern here for me. Jalen Henderson, Nico Marchiol battling for the quarterback spot for this team. The defense was terrible last year, 1 starter back. It's a good coordinator that they got for the DC, but could be a change. Yeah, I'm kind of with Sean Higgs, our guy. Welcome in, Sean, in the chat. Good to see you. Under 5.5. Yeah, I kind of. The only thing that holds me back on that is Rich Rod in year 1, what he did at Jacksonville State. Out of nowhere, like he had that team just already much improved. But then again, that's Conference USA. This is different. This is Big 12 now. Can you have that immediate first-year success here in a conference like this? I'm not as sure about that.
The biggest thing is like when you look at it, is can they find their way to form? Because like, can this team beat Robert Morris and who do they have? Ohio in game 2. We'll see. That's at Ohio. It's going
to be good. So that's not a gimme for Rich Rod.
Well, that's what I mean.
Believe it or not.
So at home, Robert Morris, like, if they start 2-0, maybe there's a chance that they go, but it'll be tough. Like the Colorado team that we mentioned, they have at home. That's a road game. Colorado's not very good. Like if they can get that or go to Houston, it could steal a game there. It depends, but it's going to be tough for them, I think.
I'll throw a team that I like in the bottom half, bottom third, whatever you want to call it, of the Big 12 that I think is going to be better this year and continue to progress and improve, and that's Willie Fritz and the Houston Cougars. I'm a Willie Fritz guy. I like, saw at Tulane what happened, 4-8, 5-7, 7-6. They just got better each year that he was there. Obviously, last year, 4-8 in Big 12 play, 3-6 in Big 12 play, 4-8 overall for Houston last year. But I think they'll continue to improve. I mean, obviously, last year they had a ton of issues. Quarterback play. Connor Wegman, I'm not a big fan of, the Texas A&M transfer. Injuries, and he's underperformed there. There's no doubt. But after Zion Chris and some of these other quarterbacks that Houston had last year, they couldn't throw a forward pass properly half the time. I'll take Connor Wegman as an upgrade. here at this particular program with Houston, assuming he can stay healthy. There were a lot of people that were expecting him to do big things at Texas A&M, and it just didn't happen. So I think just by default, they're going to have better quarterback play, Houston, this year. You've got Stacey Sneed leading them at running back. They got some weapons as far as the receiving core is concerned. It was a terrible offense last year, but Chris and his bad quarterback play was a big part of it. And what I like, too, is he brought in his old offensive coordinator out of Tulane, Slade Nagel, now taking over as the offensive coordinator.
Slade.
So, again, this is kind of like what we talked about with Alabama on the SEC preview. You got a head coach that's reuniting with a guy that he had a lot of success with as OC. Just talk about DeBoer and Ryan Grubb, and that they're reuniting at Alabama this year. Maybe it's the same thing for Willie Fritz with Slade Nagel, the guy that was calling his offense at Tulane years ago. So I think that offense will be better. There's no question about that. I think it has to be better, and Wegman by default is going to be better. The offensive line was terrible last year. Couldn't run. Pass protection was wretched, but they went transfer portal to address it. There's no question about that. The defense was actually solid for Houston last year. The offense just couldn't move the football, but the Houston defense, a little over 22 points per game. Nothing wrong with how they played on that side of the football. They do lose the DC Shield Wood. He went to Texas Tech. Austin Armstrong takes over, but it's a very good defense. There's a lot of the faces from that group are back, especially along the defensive front, which was pretty good. I think that offense is better. That defense should still be pretty good. I think the arrow's pointing, and Willie Fritz just does this. Programs get better under Willie Fritz. They get better year upon year, and I think we're going to see Houston have improvement this year as well. It's always going to be difficult, because this conference is so competitive as far as the schedule is concerned, but I sprinkled on the 5.5 over on Houston, thinking that they can be a 500 team at least, 6-6, and go bowling.
I think it's the quarterback play like you talked about, because I think the defense is still pretty good, and it's the start of their schedule. Can this team 2-1 for sure, 3-0 maybe? I mean, they're at Rice.
Yeah, soft landing to begin the year.
At home with Colorado. So even that's not easy to just go play with the issues with Oregon State, but I'm just saying the first 4 games, especially the first 3, I think it's 2-1. Could it be 3-0? Would be huge. Then they could pick a few games off to end the year. So, but that offense, it's just what do we get? There. It's got to be better though, right? I mean, that was about the worst offense to watch. They're
going to be good. I'll tell you this: they'll be a good ATS team. I think it's good. They're going to be around that, 5-7 for sure. I think, could be a little. We'll see. I think they have it in them to go 6-6, if not 7-5. But I can understand why some are pessimistic because of the offense and how tough the Big 12 is. But I'm just buying into the coach. Coach is that good that I think they could be. He will have them ready, and they will still have a great chance to be 6-6. But even more than that, Connor, they're going to be a good ATS team. I think, like point spread wise, I think they're going to have a winning point spread record this year. The Houston Cougars. That at the end of the season, you're going to see they've made money ATS for their.
That's why I backed them more of their unders, but the defense kept them in games, especially early in the year, in cover numbers, last year.
Quick hitters, Cincinnati, no good. I don't think they're going to be very good, Cincinnati.
I don't know what we get here.
It just doesn't. Has this program gotten better under Scott Satterfield? I don't think they have. So I don't like what I'm seeing out of Cincinnati. It's the same. Defense took a big step back last year. Struggled on that side of the ball. I'm not the biggest fan of Sorsby. There's a lot of inconsistency in him at the quarterback spot. Brendan Sorsby for Cincinnati. So, like I said, I just don't love what I see there. So I do like under the win total for Cincinnati this year in the Big 12. And then just a couple more before we shut her down. It's going to be interesting to see what we get here from Arizona. I lean over with them. Brennan, not a bad coach. The concern for me is the defense is still a little shaky. And I like Noah Fafita.
That offense needs to change, though. Yeah.
But without Ted Aroa McMillan, it's almost like they look for him all the time. Is that offense going to find some receivers to fill that void going to be the question for Arizona. I kind of lean over that they'll be better. I leave the door open for them to be better, but I'm not. I'd rather take Houston. Those bottom teams, those bottom half teams. I like the Houston over win total a lot more than Arizona. I lean over with Arizona, but like I said, I like the Houston one a little bit.
I think there's
more.
big questions with Arizona. Like, at least to start, I mean, they're at home to Hawaii, Weaver, but I don't know where. I just got to see more because as that offense was so good with Fafita and those receivers 2 years ago, and they were great.
They gave up almost 200 rushing yards per game last year.
Yeah, the defense against the run, but then on offense, it showed a little bit towards the end of the year. There was that offense was bad. That just nothing went fluid. Anything from last year was just out the window. Fafita looked different. Everything looked like a struggle. The play calling was bad. I just didn't use him right. So there just needs to be a change because he's athletic. I think he's a solid quarterback, but there definitely needs to be some changes to that offense and the play calling. And then the defense has its own problems, like you just said.
And last but not least,
it's pretty bad.
Because I think this is now the only team we haven't brought up yet in the Big 12, UCF. Scott Frost back to the spot where it all began. Well, that's where he got his love and adulation, was the job he did at UCF the first time he was there. And then he got the Nebraska job, and it went to shit when he went back home to his alma mater to coach them. I'm on the fence here. Part of me thinks, it's not just going to be Scott Frost back at UCF and they're going to win 8, 9, 10 games every year. But at the same point in time, he also might have just been trapped in, it's Nebraska, the program that's been a perennial underachiever for a decade. Give Scott Frost a chance to have success back where he had a ton of success many years ago at UCF. So I'm more bullish than not on UCF. I lean over with UCF. I'm giving them a chance. I'm giving Scott Frost a chance. Maybe it's just going to be a good fit here, back where he was obviously very, very successful the first time around. What are you thinking, C-Mac, with UCF?
Well, one thing that they always have advantage is at home. Like, you should win some football games there. They got to run the football. They're going to want to do that, of course. But that defense has to be better. Just flat out. Against the
responsible for all the turnovers that Martinez and all these stiff quarterbacks had year in and year out at Nebraska when he was there. All these terrible turnovers.
Yeah. Nebraska's got its own issues. But Frost just wasn't the guy for sure. But the defense for UCF, it seems, just get gashed at times. But I always like him at home. This is just kind of a whole question mark of what do we get from them. Maybe during the year, let's get to that, as home, make dogs catching big points, I think it'd be a play on. Because we know how that place can be, the bounce house. It's just who they got. But from week to week, I think they could be looked at as a dog, at least at home, when some of these big schools come to play. Like, look, they got North Carolina. That's after they have Jack State, North Carolina A&T. But another home game against Kansas, October 4th. West Virginia there, October 18th. These games that there will be dogs maybe, or at least gettable for them, or, wins flat out at home. Oklahoma State, they got at home. We'll see with UCF. That's their team. They're a wait a little bit for me.
I don't like Ja'Kurry Brown. I don't want to see him win the quarterback.
It's tough.
Spot for UCF.
I know.
I don't want to see Cam Fancher win it. He did not have a great year last year at Florida Atlantic. He's a guy that Marshall to Florida Atlantic, he got worse, believe it or not.
Both guys. It's tough. It's just tough. Either one of those guys. Yeah.
If they give me Taven Jackson as the starting quarterback, he's the guy I have the most confidence in. He's the guy that backed up Curtis Rourke in Indiana last year. And when he came in to start for Curtis Rourke, remember that period where Rourke got injured and he didn't play? Mm-hmm. Taven Jackson came in, and he actually played well. He played well in place of Curtis Rourke. So that's why I'm hoping Scott Frost has the smarts to give Taven Jackson the shot to begin the season as the starting quarterback. If he is, I think there's a chance, at least for the offense, to be decent, to be pretty good. Defense does have a lot. I think it's a good over team as well, totals wise. I think they'll play in some. They'll score points, especially if Taven Jackson's the quarterback. But that defense does have a lot of work. It's a big job to improve that defense, which was not good last year. So they could be good as far as overs with their game totals. There you have it. Can't do much more than that. We hit on every Big 12 team. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button on the way out. Nick Alvento, Sean Higgs, Old E, Andrew G. Appreciate all of you tuning in here for this edition of the College Football Hitting the Book show. Great stuff. Hope you took some notes and are a little bit more aware of what's going on in the Big 12 after listening to us for the last 90 minutes. C-Mac, anything to add before we wrap it up?
No, I think that's it. Shout out everyone. Check out, if you haven't checked out these, check out our ACC, Big 10, all those videos that we already have up. And just one more. And we're done here. We'll have a whole slew of teams. Yeah.
I'm not saying these three quarterbacks in this conference are going to win the Heisman, but at the big prices, we're talking 40 to 1, 50 to 1 or better on these guys.
Yeah.
Dampier, Utah. Sawyer Robertson, Baylor. Sam Leavitt, Arizona State as well, which actually Sam Leavitt's closer to the 20 to 1 range, but I still like Sam Leavitt.
He is.
There at 20 to 1. So those are the three Heisman sprinkles for me. Sam Leavitt, Sawyer Robertson, Devin Dampier.
Leavitt of Arizona State can be really, really good again, especially if you get over 20 to 1. 20 to 1 is solid. I'm just saying maybe you could get a better number. I haven't really shopped around, but that could be big. Yeah.
All right, that's a wrap. And Zoe, thank you for checking in. Appreciate you tuning in as well. All right, no show tomorrow. We're off, but back on Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific with the MLB Hitting the Book show. We have one more college football preview show to do, and we'll do that next Wednesday, a week from today. We'll talk Group of 5 conference preview. Looking forward to that.
Can't wait.
All in one show, hitting all the Group of 5 conferences. So make sure you tune in. All right, hit the like button on the way out. For Connor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We will be back tomorrow, Friday. By the way, baseball. I'll throw out a couple. Texas avoids the sweep with Eovaldi. I like Texas tonight against the Angels. Anything in baseball you want to throw out to the people?
Oh, it's just starting. Rays. Give me them first 5. This bullpen's been garbage, but always tough games. Rays, Yankees. Split the first 2 as well. So Warren's been pretty good. I got to give it to him. But I think the Rays could jump on him. So Rays plus 120, first 5.
There you have it. We're out of here. For Connor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. We'll see you Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific for the MLB edition of Hitting the Books. Until then, class dismissed.
Peace.